All right, Chris, here we are. 28, episode 28 of the High Octane Dads podcast. Good to be back in the flow of things. We're making it happen, even though you're, states away. You're traveling.
Yeah. Up here in the old Windy City again. And it's actually pretty nice this go around. It was like 75 outside today, but it was like 20-mile-an-hour winds. So,
yeah.
And we were sitting out here on the little patio at the hotel, a couple of us playing a card game, and we were out there like an hour. My eyes got so itchy, so red. I was like, all right, I got to go inside, got to wash my eyes, take my contacts out, took Claritin, so I'll probably be out before too long. But
Yeah, me too. Just been a long week, so I know as soon as I get still, it's gonna just exhaustion's gonna set in. I'm gonna pass out for sure.
Oh yeah. We're going tomorrow. We're gonna roll into the city and check out some of the festivities. You know, they're gonna color the river green for St. Patrick's Day. We're gonna check that out. Check out the Navy Pier. Then we're going to go see Fluffy tomorrow night. So
that's right.
Cool. Yeah,
that's gonna be cool.
Yeah. So
I say every few years I'm going to go to Savannah because so the 17th is my birthday. And so I've always joked like everybody parties for my birthday, especially in Savannah, right? So I always say I'm going to go, and I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I know you should. It'd be a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, so my dad lived down there. I've been in Savannah,
right,
around St. Pat, but I've never at that time I was younger. I've not been down there as an adult to go and just hang out and walk River Street on St. Patrick's Day. And I mean, it gets packed out, but one day we're going to go. But cool stuff.
Yeah, it'd be a good time.
Oh yeah. And so got some automotive news and just headlines and stuff that I thought were pretty interesting, and I'll run through them this week. So the big thing for a lot of the folks that, we know is, being drag racing, Brittany Force ran the fastest 8th mile per hour. It was 302.69 miles per hour. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, it was in practice, I think they didn't quite have the weekend they wanted to overall, and of course that's in a top fuel dragster, but still, man, like that's insane. 302 miles an hour in an 8th mile.
Wow. Yeah, that's insane. What's your 0-60? Shit.
It don't matter. So, I've always said the NHRA race that I want to go back to is the Gator Nationals. And this week, Freiberger was down there. I think it was his first time doing like announcing for the NHRA. So that seems pretty cool. Like that's definitely something that'd be awesome to be able to do. You got to have a lot of personality though, be able to talk constantly. And not just about anything, like adjusting to what's going on the track. And I've always thought that would be a really difficult job. You listen to like the F1 announcers, and they're constantly like, they know what's going on, they know who's where, and it's wild to me what they can do. Speaking of F1, so the first F1 race of the season kicks off this weekend with the Australian Grand Prix. I think it's technically Sunday, but it's midnight our time. So I normally don't stay up and watch them, but since it's midnight instead of like 2-3 a.m. like the China Grand Prix is, I'll probably actually watch it.
Yeah.
Usually record them, but
hell yeah.
Pretty excited about that and get that started back up. I love watching F1, man. It's like watching IndyCar or anything else. They're fast, precision driving. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
So, Lewis Hamilton's one of the racers. He was dominant years and years ago racing for Mercedes. This is his first season. He's left Mercedes. He's now with Ferrari. So that's going to be an interesting shift this year. So it's really like anybody's game. But what's more interesting for maybe the folks that we know who don't care anything about F1 normally is Cadillac has actually been approved to so they're going to field an F1 team in 2026. So there will be a Cadillac GM power plant in an F1 car in 2026. So I'm interested to see who their drivers are going to be.
Yeah.
Rumors that Daniel Ricciardo would be one of their drivers. And he was like, I mean, I had to, when you first start any sport or anything, eventually you just go, that's my team, or that's, my guy, my racer. And Daniel Ricciardo was the one I picked. And I did it being a bumpkin because I'm like, he's got number 3 on his car. And
hell yeah.
Come to find out, so he's Australian, but come to find out, he's a big Dale Earnhardt fan. And that's why he picked number 3 as his F1 number. And so when he won, I think it was his first race, the owners of the race team, one of the guys like owned or knew the guy that owned the original like number 3 Wrangler stock car and took him out and let him drive it as a reward for having won his first F1 race. And so I was like, I knew I picked the right guy. But there's rumor that he was one of the contenders to get behind the wheel of the Cadillac F1 car. So I'm kind of curious if that'll come to fruition. He's a little older, but be interesting.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, these retards are trying to call me on Facebook. What y'all doing? I'm not doing that right now.
Is it the Mullet Militia admins?
No. It's my Georgia reject friends.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought that was me.
You're one of them. Like you say, I've got friends in low places.
That's right. So I'll get back to that a little bit later on some upcoming stuff that I've got coming up that I'm pretty excited about. But yeah, so apparently Apple Studios has done and their production quality on most of the stuff they do is great. Like I watched all of Ted Lasso and like I'd never watched it. That show's great. Yeah. Production quality and writing and all is really good. But they're doing an F1 movie and Brad Pitt starring in it. And he's like the veteran driver, and then they've got a new driver that comes in. It's a fictional story, but it's supposed to be about like the world of F1, kind of like a Days of Thunder kind of movie. And so I'm pretty excited about that one.
Got a cold trickle in it. It ain't no Days of Thunder.
That's right. But speaking of that, man, there's I don't think this one's a fiction movie, but in NASCAR news, there is a Earnhardt movie. It's going to come out on Amazon Prime Video.
I think I saw that.
It's coming Memorial Day weekend, so not too far off.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. And, what's crazy is like, I think I mentioned that I've been watching NASCAR a bit more lately. The 2025 season's a little wild, man. Like, they've started out and, William Byron won the Daytona 500, which was 2 in a row. So that was already interesting. But then after that, Christopher Bell has won the last 3 races. So Atlanta, Circuit of the Americas, and Phoenix. So it's like they're kind of jumping out early for the championship. So it's pretty interesting stuff going on in racing this year and like the real professional, racing. So it's been fun to watch, man. I'm enjoying following it much more than any other sport that I try to watch.
I really need to get into watching something. It's just life is busy. I mean, like you said, I'm in traveling right now, and when I'm home, I'm like, just try to do whatever I can, get stuff done, or we're running here and there and everywhere with the kids and all these projects breaking down on me.
Yeah. No, I know how that is for sure. Speaking of projects, though, you got an update on the Caprice?
Yeah. So I had to take my head back to the machinist. He had to do a little extra work to it. He could fix it, got it right. And then I was looking through my rockers, and I had 3 rockers that the tips were like deteriorating, and it had damaged 2 other valves, so I had that repaired. I ended up replacing the rocker arms with the BTR LS3 replacement version, I guess. They're a little bit beefier. I took some pictures, so if we could post them up. And then I put the brass bushing trunnion kit on it. So I got the head on, put all that shit together, but then I had a bunch of wiring issues with the starter, and it was a nightmare. And then I got it all together, went to start it again, and then it wouldn't start. I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to jump the relay just to get it running. And I went to pull, and it's got like the big fuses in it, like these big square fuses, and the one for the starter, it got blown. I was like, oh, motherfucker.
Oh, like the ones that almost look like a cube? Like...
Yeah. So, but the one for the starter, I had popped it because I was underneath of it trying to fix the issue I had earlier and didn't unhook the battery, and I was like, biting it. And I was like, oh, fuck. Because I was just trying to plug something in, and I guess just I had to end up moving it around enough to where it didn't like me. But so it popped that fuse, and I was looking around, and I've never used a rear defroster in that car, and that took the same type of fuse, so I just popped it out and swapped it over. At first, I just pulled one out of the blower motor just to get it to where it would run, and then I was looking, I'm like, well, I don't ever use the rear defroster, mostly because I don't want it to make my tent bubble. I don't know if that's still a thing, but it just makes me worried to try it. So
Makes sense.
I just don't use it.
My mom had a 2018 Durango, man, and like she come over one time and her air conditioner wasn't working. In Crystal's, we've had to replace the blower motor on it, and I think it's starting to go again. I got a Dorman one, and I think it's crapping out on us. But my mom was like, my air conditioner's not blowing, but then sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. And a lot of times when it was cold and when she'd first crank it up, she had no air, and then after a while of driving it, suddenly she had air, which almost seems opposite of like, if the blower motor was heating up and had issues
kicking out.
Finally she come over and I was like, man, I don't exactly know what it could be. So I'm trying to diagnose it. And I said, well, let me check the fuse. And I pulled the fuse, and it was one of those square fuses, what made me think about it.
Okay.
And dude, that thing was from you could see the top of it looked okay. It didn't look blown. The bottom half of that fuse was black.
Oh, wow.
It was getting hot.
Oh, wow.
And went and picked up another fuse and swapped it out, and it was fine for, a year or more. Like that's what it was. And all I can figure is it was getting hot and expanding some. That fuse was, barely cracked, was just connected, and then it would start working.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, that is wild that it got that hot, but didn't like actually just blows.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah. Well, I got the car running and ended up, I heat cycled it a couple times, changed the oil, and then put it on the ground. And basically, late the night before, I left to go to Chicago. So it's on the ground waiting for me to go ripping around when I get home.
Nice. Very nice. Man, I seen it was a reel or something the other day, and it was talking about, shop pranks, like next level. And this dude, like, he pulled the fuse out and took a pair of diagonal cutters and clipped one leg off of it and stuck it back in.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, so it's not going to work, but if they just test it with a meter at the top of the fuse, they're going to be like, oh, it's got continuity. What? I was like, I've seen that before. That's dirty. Man, when I was working at Circuit City, I had this guy, and he, we were all working in the car stereo shop together, but this dude was like, maybe mid-30s or whatever, like already on blood pressure meds, already on, which here I am, I'll be 37 Monday, and, probably could use something like that. But at the time I was like, man, this guy's not that old, and he's, already on all these medications, and like, he needs to chill out, But then I was going to eat for my lunch break that night, and I remember me and one of the sales guys, we went to Applebee's, and we sat down and we ate, and we were getting done. I had a hoodie on, and when I got ready to get up to leave, I just flipped my hood up, and dude, when I did, self-tapping screws went everywhere.
Oh, man.
He had apparently over the last couple of hours been loading my hood up with self-tappers, and I'm like, okay, I'll get him back. And so I think it was the next day, I took the real big boy zip ties. I put about 3 of them around his drive shaft. Nothing major, but it sounded like hell when he got ready to leave. I've never seen somebody's face as red as this dude's was when he come out of that truck.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I'm like, everybody knows that prank. It'll be fine. He had a Ford Ranger. What I didn't know is like that weekend before, he had been fighting with that bitch, and like the spark plug, the ceramic and the metal had separated. Like he fought to get a spark plug out of the head. Like he had the hell of a time with this truck, and I didn't know that. And man, he got out of there and he come walking up, and we were just leaned up on the edge of the shop, like, you want to play pranks? We can play pranks, And he said, and we were all laughing. He goes, what'd y'all do? And I was like, remember the other day when I went out to eat and I had self-tappers all in my hoodie? He goes, did you put them in my gas tank? Like I was like, what? Like, there's just zip ties under your truck. And he was like, cut them off of there. And I was just handing him a pair of cutters. I was like, nah, man, it's on you. But I didn't realize, like, I could have made that dude stroke out that day. I felt so bad.
Oh, but, man.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the fuse thing, that's almost diabolical.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah, that one is dirty. I mean,
Especially you get busy. You're trying to like,
yeah,
man,
trying to
terrible.
hurry up and get shit done, and then you're like fighting it. The problem is something like that could make one of us like shelf something for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. I'll be like, man, I give up. I'm going to move on to another project, and it just sits.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would suck.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of dumb shit like that.
And then your buddy'd forget to tell you about it for a year.
Yeah.
Like, oh, have you checked the fuses?
Oh, like her.
That probably made me stroke out.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
No.
I hadn't done much, man. I got out, my Temu tack came in.
Yeah.
I hadn't wired it because now I'm kind of thinking like, so I went to Cars and Coffee, this past weekend and took a bunch of pictures. I put them on my Facebook, and there were some really cool cars out there, man. Just anything, everything you think of. There were Lamborghinis, there were old Lincolns slammed on the ground. There was a GTR done up like Paul Walker's, like the same graphics and everything.
Yeah.
You know, there was all kind of stuff there, and it was cool. And then like they had a drag and drive event. It was literally just like you met at or you teched in at the drag strip, and then drove, 30, 40 minutes, drove back, made passes. It was just kind of a entry level drag and drive kind of thing. And so they had that afternoon. So a lot of the guys that were doing that came to the car show. And Sonny, he brought his 60 Ford Fairlane out, which is a super cool car. His dad brought his Maverick out. There was all kind of stuff there, man. We had a good time, but there was where was I going with that? Other than the fact that I was at Cars and Coffee.
Yeah.
I had a point. There was a car, we talked about it, and I was like, oh, there was one of those there. Now I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, yeah. So there was a third gen there, a blue third gen. It was the only third gen on the lot, and had a supercharged LS in it. Super cool car, man. And the guy had done it right. Like everything was like, it was a show car, but had the supercharged LS in there. And what got me on that topic was it had a Dakota digital dash that was made. I think it was from Hawks, but it was like factory gauge look, but it was all Dakota digital gauges in the dash. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I did that, I just used the tack on the OBS, because that truck didn't have, it's just speedometer.
Right.
So now I'm kind of like, I'm curious. I haven't looked it up to see how much they are, but I'm curious how much that would be.
Probably expensive.
Well, yeah.
I know the ones that I like are, it's not Speed Hut, is it? They might be Speed Hut.
Speed Hut, yeah.
But like I know John McPherson had a set made for his Trans Am, and they look great. But they were like expensive. But they're like custom made to like kind of whatever fonts and backgrounds he wants and layout. They got really awesome lighting.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about that, I don't know if, because his is obviously a Camaro, and the Camaro dash, the Firebird dash is different. And then obviously depending on the year, between the third gen Firebirds, they were a little different, I think. So, I don't know if that would be within the realm of possibility or not.
So 86 and up all have electronic speedometer for the Firebirds.
Yeah.
But
I can't remember if the way they're laid out on the dash, I think they were a little bit different when you got.
Maybe a little bit. I think it depends on what engine package the car had as well. But see, like my Trans Am, it had the 85 mile an hour speedometer and the $6,000 tack. And I swapped in a cluster with a 145 speedometer and an $8,000 tack. And I actually rolled my mileage up to meet the mileage what my car actually had. I want to say the cluster had like 80,000 and the car's got like 200 and something. And I rolled it up so that I kept the original mileage of the car.
So I'm looking at the Hawks ones are like, for the Camaro one, like that guy had, they're about $1,600. But there's a Intellitronics digital instrument cluster.
Yeah.
This one's Classic Industries. It's $460. I mean, it's not bad. It's got, volt, fuel, oil pressure, and water temp, speedometer, RPM. Like, I don't know, that'd be pretty cool. Or something like that up in there. But yeah, so I got out there and kind of sort of messed with it. Then I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm just gonna put it back together and go drive the car, which would be Kind of nice. Put the WS6 wheels back on it and go to town.
Well, so honestly, I think when I get home, I'm going to go buy me a battery for the Trans Am just because I need to move it. It's got a bad battery. And I'm like, you know what? I could just get to my daughter. You know, she just got her driver's license last week. So I'm like, you know, she's asked to drive it some to learn how to drive stick in it. So I'm like, really, the only thing preventing me from driving it right now is it needs a battery and just kind of some maintenance from sitting. I mean, I might have to do a little bit with the exhaust because I changed the headers and I had redone the Y pipe, but I think it hangs a little low in some spots. But I mean, it's well enough now. I can put a battery in it, clean the car good, and then just drive it for a little bit. Yeah. So I might just actually try to take it out and drive it a little bit this summer before it gets super hot. When it gets super hot, I'll just be back to driving the Caprice because I'm not driving that car around with no HVAC and, you know, having swamp ass. But
yeah, Josh hit me up and called me out on my post the other day because, you know, my car had the factory AC box and everything. And I, of course, pulled all that out, which it was cracked. And I mean, it needed, you know, it never worked from the time I was 15 when I got the car.
Right.
You know, it was the same thing. You buy, oh, it just needs to be charged. You know, that's what everybody says when you buy a car with non-working AC. But he's like, you need to put AC back in. And I was like, I don't disagree that, you know, I'm kind of in this mode of like, okay, if I can keep a decent 11-second all-motor car that, you know, has heat and AC, like, and just keep the car comfortable, like, I might be okay with that. I'm instead of continuing to push for more and more and more.
Right.
But, you know, the AC box, I mean, where I get hung up with it is it's so damn big and it's all just ugly as hell under there. And that's kind of why
I've really debated on doing a, vintage air kits. Mm-hmm. So there's like a universal one, and I think they're just now starting to come out with one for third gens, but I know Philip, he's kind of local to me. He's in Richmond or Chesterfield, and he's got that really pretty blue Z28 or RS with
Cornell's Garage.
Yeah. So he's not far from me, but he did a vintage air setup in his car and was able to get everything under the dash. And I'm like, you know, that's pretty badass. And
that's the way to do it, man. And if I do it, like, it's going to be okay. Instead of worrying about getting a 9-inch, right? Like, that's going to be the expense, is put air back in the car, but in a way that it's clean, that I'm happy with it. Right. And, you know, like I said, I've never had air, but it would be really cool to have it and be able to get in it, turn the AC on and go on a long trip with it. Cause like, I want to go to the F-Body Beach Bash. I've said every year that I was going to go, but it's always the weekend of my anniversary. Yeah. And, you know, I always joke, I'm going to tell my wife, we're going to the beach for my anniversary. We're going to Myrtle Beach, but then
you never know. I mean,
she'll figure it out.
If y'all went and it was just you guys and y'all did that and then kind of still did some stuff that you guys would want to do, or she would want to do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she would enjoy it. She wouldn't complain. I mean, she'd be like, because she knows I've wanted to go to that event too. Like, she'd have a good time. You know, I also say, so my best friend, his parents, they go every year to the Turkey Rod Run in Daytona, and they talk about how much fun they have. And like, it's, you know, we get hung up on the family tradition. You got to do Thanksgiving here, but one of these years I'm going to go do that too. And, but you know, my wife, she's on board. She'll go along.
Cool.
But it's just, you know, usually, that's always a busy time. Now, September, right? LS Fest. It's my youngest son's birthday. And those almost always fall pretty much on the same weekend. So we end up having to balance that. Then to turn around 2 weeks later and go to the F-Body Beach Bash, it just...
Yeah. And like now with me having the Caprice, you know, I've met a lot of people in the Holden and the Caprice world. And they do a Holden cookout in the Midwest the weekend before LS Fest. And there's so many people like, you need to come. And I'm like, dude. That would be me like driving an 11-hour trip one weekend and then coming home, and then the very next weekend driving all the way back out another 11-hour trip away from home for a few days, and just in my car, not a work trip. So it's not like it's paid and I got my travel covered. I'm gonna have to pay for all that shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're talking about your daughter just got her license. My son got his. So the similarities between us continue. He finally. Like I said, I think it took his buddies starting to get their licenses, and then it kind of, you know, as long as they were all like playing Fortnite and stuff, hanging out together, and wasn't really, you know, they could hang out in some manner. he wasn't really thinking anything about it. But then, now that they're driving and they're getting out and got their freedom, now he wanted to. And I mean, he'd been practicing driving and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was doing okay. He didn't really care whether he went and got his license or whatever, and then all of a sudden he wanted to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Caitlin was pretty excited to get hers, and she's been, I mean, all over the roads now. And I think she's doing good. I had to go the weekend before I left, and I had a bad power steering leak on that Volvo still, and I go back through, pop the lines off, and one of the lines, the O-ring had fallen off, I guess, when I initially put them on.
Yeah.
So it was just pouring fluid. So I had to take them both off, put new O-rings on, put it back together, and so far it's been doing all right. So it was at the beginning of the week I left, and I was like, shit. I was like, I'm reminding her, so you need to check the oil. And I meant to get with her on it because that car, it's a Volvo. There ain't oil under it. There ain't oil in it. And I've had to put a decent amount of oil in it already. So I think I need to go ahead and do I think it's the like the VVT actuator or whatever the hell they are. I think the seal for them are leaking. So that's a common issue.
Yeah, Layla's Civic that we had, man, we ended up, it was new power steering, reservoir, pump, everything, right? And the thing still leaked. It was leaking from the rack. Man, we were just like, bottle a month, it'd be all right. Just top it off every now and then.
This was like a bottle across town.
Oh, yeah. No, that'd get expensive.
I had to send you a video because I got a video of it just leaking, and it's just like pretty much, and this was like driving 10 minutes to David's house, and by the time I was getting close to his house, the power steering was getting tight. I was like, what the fuck? And I put it up on the lift, and it was just like pouring out of it as the car ran. I'm like, well, there's the leak.
Yeah.
So, but no, I mean, so I think she's been doing all right. She's been driving it around. I've been checking up on her, but we got to watch because she wants to show off her friends.
I don't know where she gets that from.
No, I mean, it is a Volvo, but it might have a high flow exhaust system on it now. Makes cool turbo noises.
Nice.
So,
yeah, my daughter, she was chomping at the bit. She was ready to drive. Jonathan, little, like I said, he was a little more reserved, and he was just, there's a lot of cars on the road, and a lot of stuff that can go wrong, and I appreciate that he was cautious, and I'm good with that too. But it's I don't know what's more nerve wracking, riding with them to teach them to drive when they're first learning and not really that experienced, or cutting them loose and sending them and them running to town. So, and you're not with them, you know what I mean? And so if something happens, you're just like, am I going to get that call?
Yeah. So I think about that too. And I think for me, just initially driving with them, I don't ride well with people anyway. But I think that was worse because I think back to how I learned, and I need to be shown something, do it a few times. And then eventually I needed to be kind of left to do it by myself. So I kind of get over that fear of somebody hovering over me. And then I can kind of get more comfortable, I guess, with whatever I'm doing. And my daughter's the same way. And I can tell already just that, she's doing better, that we're kind of being a little more hands off. And now since she's kind of out on her own, she's been doing a lot of quick trips around town. She'd go by and see my mom and, different family members just so she can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's crazy. My daughter, she leaves school every day, and my mom's hair salon's on the way home from school. She'll stop and see her. My wife was working at the gym. She'd stop and see her. And it's, it's liberating in a way when they get a little bit of their own freedom for them and for you. It's okay, especially with my daughter, she does plays and all that stuff. She's got practices, and she did color guard with the marching band. So it's I don't have to make sure she gets places anymore. She's able to do a lot of that, and that's cool. But it's terrifying.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're still not going to let her do for a little while until she gets a little bit more driving experience. So I mean, picking her, people up and taking them places, or like more so her siblings. So we're just not super comfortable with that yet. And then her and her sister, my 10-year-old, they like to fight pretty hard. So I don't really want them in the car by themselves together, but so much right now. I don't need them bickering and fighting with each other going down the road.
I know my two we're doing that some, heading to school, especially, she's standing there, she's ready to go, early in the morning, and he's like, he's not an early riser. And so he's finally, and then, he runs out to the car because she was giving him a ride to school. And then it's like, oh no, I forgot my gym bag. I forgot these guys to run back inside. So she gets frustrated and they're frustrated with each other. And there was some time there where eventually she was like, I'm not taking him to school anymore because he makes me late. And then if I say something about him making me late, he gets mad.
Yeah.
And, and I was like, well, your delivery too. Like there's, 3 sides to every story. And,
it is.
But yeah, I mean, and I didn't, I think back to when I was a kid, like my parents were like, well, you're doing it anyway, but, we were like, well, it's, it's your car. It's your, you're the one driving. So we're not going to force you to do that. So, but now, like I said, he's got his license. So next week will be his first week, driving to school on his own. So
yeah, this week mine's been doing it. So
it's a tight parking lot up there. He's got that extended cab Silverado, and she started out in a little Civic coupe. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So apparently the spot they gave her, because they assign them spots now.
Oh, okay.
They didn't do it when I was there, but now they assign you certain spots. Well, her spot is one that she has to parallel park in.
Oh,
and I'm like, damn, that sucks.
Long ass Volvo, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it's not that bad, but I mean, it's still just being for her. And, it's, there's no backup cameras, none of that shit, which I want her to know how to use the mirrors. So, but, I do plan to get her, we're going to plan to put a better radio in it. I've been looking at some options to actually give her a backup camera, but that way she can listen to her music with her Bluetooth and all that. Cause the radio,
having the Bluetooth keeps them a little safer too. If they get a phone call, if you're trying to reach out to them, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to have that for sure.
And the radio in the car itself, it's got some electrical issues, and like it'll be going down the road and it'll randomly start changing stations, and the buttons, like the servos in it or whatever going out, not servos, but you got to try to turn the volume up and it might go up, might go down. You don't know.
I had one like that. Yeah.
So,
Josh is big on those Android radios, just they have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay and all that stuff, but it's just basically a tablet, but it's in the form factor of a radio and goes in there. And I've looked at them, man. You can pick them up off like AliExpress, or I'm sure you can get them on Temu or whatever, $50-$60. I mean, and the way I looked at it, it's like, or a $400 like an Alpine or Pioneer or whatever, but I can buy 3 or 4 of these other ones. So, one of them's bound to be good.
Well, so there was one that I saw in one of the Volvo groups that's like made to fit this car, like wherever the dash shit's made. And it's like $180. And I'm really debating on it, but I want to try to do a little more research before I buy this off the wall Temu radio, or whatever it was from.
So there's a guy I seen in one of the OBS groups the other day. He's making a little touchscreen radio that goes where the factory radio controls were on the OBS, because you've got where the cassette player is here.
Right.
But then up here is just your buttons and volume up and down. And so there's never been obviously a radio that would fit there. It was always you put it where the cassette player was, and then you would put like a blank pocket or just a blank there or something, which I was going to put, like the little Holly screen there or something like that, which is what a lot of people do. But he's making a little radio a little Android radio that goes in there. And I'm interested to see, he's doing like a pre-sale on them, I think. So I need to go look him back up and see how much it's going to be. Because I'd rather use, if I'm going to put a pocket or anything like that, I'd rather do something in that middle section that's further away and have my touchscreen right there.
Closer. Yeah. So,
it's an interesting idea.
Yeah. I know we had talked a little bit about, but we have somebody we might try to have on later, next couple weeks. Entrepreneur, and maybe have some sort of some little sponsorship stuff we've been kind of hinting around a little bit about with each other. But
for sure,
I mean, it might be kind of cool. But I mean, honestly, I don't really have a whole lot going on right now. Like I said, I'm out of town, so I tried to catch up on what projects I could before I left, and hopefully when I get back, I can start to. I don't think I got to come up here again the rest of this year, so I'm gonna try to reclaim my yard and my garage a little bit.
Yeah, I've been working on mine. We've got some not drainage issues that like really affect the house. It's just when it rains really heavy, man, we get like a river across the backyard.
Oh
And
yeah.
and then it also washes right up to my front step. It doesn't, again, the house is raised up there, but that very first step, it'll get about yay deep right there. Because what happens is over time, the dirt's washed, the sidewalk has become the lowest point. And so it runs down that, pulls against it, and then runs along my landscape timbers and then out through the yard.
Yeah.
So I dug a little trench there. I'm going to put some gravel in it. But yeah, I've got to do a good bit of yard work. I got a crepe myrtle that's like just taking over out here. I've got to cut it back.
Well, I got a lot of junk I just want to get rid of that's outside, like some scrap metal. I got like some extra wheels. I got a whole bunch of LS manifolds. Decided to do it with this camper thing I got out here. Then my yard from the one dog we had, she had destroyed it. It's got holes all through the yard. There's like all sorts of broken kid toys in the backyard. I'm like, look, I told them I was gone, so y'all can start picking that shit up. And so when I come home, I want to really start working on this yard. So I'm gonna do a little bit of car shuffling around probably that first day to get the Caprice out, and then at some point in the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna pull this camper apart and see if I want to tackle it or get rid of it, and like I said, I've got a lot of shit. I'm debating on renting a dumpster and just kind of cleaning the house.
Hey, if that camper will at least keep you dry, I might want to borrow it and go to Talladega with it this year.
Yeah. I don't know. And the whole back wall of it's falling off. So,
well, maybe not.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'd have to. I'm going to get into it and assess if it's something I want to fool with or not. I'm kind of thinking right now I don't want to fool with it. So, it was given to me. But I don't know if I should try to like sell it and get something out of it, or just tear it apart and scrap it. I was going to build a trailer, but I don't know if I want to fight with that either.
Yeah.
Unless somebody I know wants it, they can have it.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, I don't think I mentioned this. So we had a guy reach out to my wife. Their son, they had bought a 03 or 02 Tahoe.
So it said something about it.
It's like, I don't really care for it. I don't really want to drive it. And I said, well, they said, we'll trade you straight for the Civic. And my wife was like, no, we're trying to get rid of some vehicles and not have so many in the yard. And so she was telling me about it later that night. She's like, yeah, they said they wanted to trade for it. And I was like, yeah, probably not. She's like, it's a Tahoe with the V8. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute now. Maybe we do all that. And, because I mean, with the Civic, with some of the body panels and stuff, and the power steering lead and other stuff, like I wasn't hopeful that I could get a ton for it. It had 200 and something thousand miles on it. Tahoe had like 290. Yeah, but I drove it, man, and it's loaded. Leather, sunroof, got the rear TV in the headrest. It's got rear air, heated seats. I mean, it needs a windshield and mirrors and stuff, but it was like when I drove it, it's like, man, this thing rides great.
With these side mirrors.
Yeah, man, it's got the ones that have got the big arrow on them. So when you turn the blinker on, it lights up or whatever. But then I went on Rock Auto, they make just the glass with that arrow on it for like $18. So I was like, so at first, like I got it because like I know for the OBS, I need an alternator, I need coil packs, I need a starter. And no, it's not great to use a used one off of something with 300,000 miles, but to get the truck running, it's going to save me $90 on a starter. Going to save me 80 or 90 for an alternator, 180 for coil packs, just all these little things that I was like, man, I can just scavenge parts off of it and then rebuild the block and have the spare or sell it for a few $100 as a core or whatever, and probably make more than I would have out of selling the Civic. Now, I was excited about possibly using the leather seats. So I thought I might be able to take the second row leather seats and use them in the OBS, but I looked into it today. And I think they were saying with the bracket and everything, the way the seats on the third gen seats are, they just won't sit low enough in the truck to give you enough headroom to really be useful. And they had like made a modified bracket, but it still just wouldn't get them low enough. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to use those, but I mean, it's got some body panel issues, but I mean, the under the hood and everything, it's clean. You can smell it burn a little oil if you drive it, but it's got 300,000 miles on it.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
But I'll be able to get stuff off of it that I want or need, and probably sell the hood, sell the the front doors are in pretty good shape. Like I can make my money back out of it. And have a few of the parts I need. to at least get the truck running.
Yeah, I mean, is it 2-wheel drive?
Yeah, I mean, the transmission shift's good too. You know, I was dealing with the issue where this transmission I have is kind of untested, and that one might not last a year, but at least I know it shifts, it downshifts good and all that. So it's like, I'm thinking pull it all out, use that transmission with my engine, throw it in the truck, and, you know, don't get it right, just get it running, and then deal with the rest later.
Yeah, I mean, and you could have in multiple transmissions that if you have issues, or get one built and, you know, whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking, man, if I took that 5.3 out of that, which I guess it's Gen 3, right? But, you know, took it.
What year is it?
I think it's a 03. I'm gonna have to go look. Actually, I mean, it was like, hey, you want to trade? And I was like, a V8 for a 4-cylinder coupe Civic? I'm like, yes, I'll do that. And, you know, it's, I don't know. I'll look into it. But I mean, even still, to have a spare engine in case, I mean, if my son's, you know, if I have it cleaned up and his 4.8 goes out, I can put the 5.3 in there, his truck. So, and then rebuild that one. So it's, I don't know. I figured, figured it'd give me something to tinker with. And then,
like you need more projects.
Yeah. Don't tell Steve. So yeah, I mean, plenty going on. I'm trying to get out and be a normal human being and do stuff other than sit around the house and work. And, we're like on a concert fest this year. We've yet to go to any. We went to one downtown, just like a spur of the moment, like a 90s tribute band concert thing. But, we had a friend reach out and say, hey, do you want to go see Metallica in June? And I was like, yes. Like, how many more opportunities do you have to see Metallica? And it's at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, so we're going to go to that.
Hell yeah.
My wife got me tickets to see, so Parker McCullum, I don't know if you know who that is coming to the new amphitheater we've got here in town.
Okay, but cool.
The reason we knew about it as the opening act is Corey Smith, and I like Corey Smith a lot. He's a local guy from Athens, and just does like folksy country stuff. I love his music, so try to see him anytime he comes close, and he's opening for Parker. And I think Clint Black's playing like the Vidalia Festival. And so we're going to try to go see Clint Black. But then my brother's birthday is the 9th, and he loves Hank Williams Jr. And they announced that Hank Williams Jr. is coming to the amphitheater they just built in our little town.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, buying my brother tickets for his birthday. Like, don't care, getting him tickets. And it's like, you know, going to get him some Hank Jr. tickets for his birthday. It's not until July, but we didn't get front row, but it's that very first section right up near the stage.
Hell yeah. That would be awesome.
Man, I'm looking forward to that one. And I think, gosh, who's opening for him? Mark Chestnut. It's going to be opening for him. So, I mean, it's going to be a hell of a concert, man. It's going to be really good.
So, we're actually going at the end of this month and seeing Brooks and Dunn.
Dude, I got the Brooks and Dunn tag on the front of my truck. Absolutely love Brooks and Dunn. It's one of my favorite groups of all time.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah, so it was kind of spur of the moment. She was like telling me when I came back from Chicago last time about a coworker and his girlfriend were going, and she was like looking the tickets up. And I was like, you want to go? And she was like, well, I don't know. Would you want to? And I'm like, let's go. And like all the tickets they had left weren't like super, super great. But I'm like, it'll still be a good time. We'll just go. So I think it's the 28th or 29th. And, you know, we're going to go see them. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, our Metallica seats are the nosebleeds, man. And they're the nosebleeds at Mercedes-Benz Stadium where the Falcons play. Like, we saw Garth Brooks there. Well, it was whenever Mercedes-Benz Stadium opened, because it was the first concert ever at Mercedes-Benz. It was Garth Brooks. And we went and saw him, and, you know, we were way, way up in the cheap seats. So you're along. I mean, they're this big, but it's like, it's Metallica. I'm going to do it. Same way I was about Garth Brooks. It's like, it might not be the best seats in the world, but I'm going to say I saw him live.
Right.
And I've never been a big concert guy until recent years, but it's really like I enjoy
going something.
We saw this amphitheater that we're going to see Hank Jr. Brantley Gilbert did a show there, and ACAL was there. Demon Jones, I think I mentioned that, and that was a good show. So
hell yeah,
looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, the first real big one we went to was Motley Crue and Alice Cooper.
Oh, man, I would love that too.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, we got really good tickets with that. One of guys I met through Mullet Militia actually got me tickets for it years ago. It was pretty cool. We went out to eat with him a couple times. I've gone to a few car events with him.
That's funny that did I send you? It was a reel the other day, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna go see Molly Crew. It'll be just like it was in the '80s.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
you can
yeah,
damn halfway understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
Like,
So
oh no.
I will say when we went, Alice Cooper was great. And then this was back in 2014 when they were like doing their final tour thing, whatever. And now they've come back since then, whatever. But, I mean, it was a cool deal. And Alice Cooper played, and he had like 3 or 4 songs he played. And then Motley Crue came out, and Vince was like running back and forth. He was like, and then like after like 2 or 3 songs, then I'm like, all right, the playing's really good, but he can't keep up. And then they kind of slowed down and they kind of talked a little bit, and we just kind of talked about some of their history and the 40 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they started slowing down and singing, and it was much better.
Yeah.
But then that's when you had all the idiots that were so hammered. And we had like our own we were in the party deck, which was pretty cool. But we're up there, people are just like falling down next to me, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, I want to at least remember if I paid all that money to be there, I want to remember the concert. Yeah. So I try to keep it reasonable.
And I know that was the first time Holly ever seen, people flashing at a concert. She was like, did you just see that? I'm like, what? She goes, some girl just flashed her boobs. Look, there's more. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm excited to go see Brooks and Dunn at the end of the month. Maybe try to do a few more this year, so that'd be good.
Yeah, that'll be awesome for sure.
I do know that I am going to try to start hitting up some more cars and coffees and maybe some autocross events across my state. Since now, pretty much I know my weekends are free for the most part. And so I've thought about maybe if I try to do a big autocross event, like in Hampton Roads or like, on the Eastern Seaboard, I can go and go out on Friday night when I get off work and, be down here or be down there by, 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening and then get a room. And then that way I'm there first thing in the morning instead of driving 3 or 4 hours early in the morning to be there at like 7 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah. So I found out our local autocross group, they just kind of got started back up. It's the ones that Kyle Pearson has run for years, and he takes his car out there, and he was telling me I ought to come out. And when I was at the Cars and Coffee this last weekend, a guy I used to work with was there with his Porsche Carrera GT, and he goes out there and runs. And he was telling me I think they have one this weekend, which I know I won't make. But then he said after that it'll probably be a few weeks, and they'll have another event. And he was like, "Man, you ought to come out." He said because you get it's a smaller group, so you're gonna get plenty of runs. And then
and if you find somebody, there's always somebody out there. I've made a ton of friends going to autocross events. And you'll find somebody that'll be like, come on, hey, let me go around with you, and I'll help you out, and they'll kind of give you some pointers.
And that'll be what I need. Like I've never really got out and played around in parking lot like that. There just wasn't really anywhere here to do it where you weren't going to get arrested. And then my dad knew every sheriff's deputy.
It'll humble you because you get out there, and I mean, it doesn't seem like much, but it doesn't look like a whole lot if you're just spectating. When you're in the car, it's like, holy shit, there's a lot of shit going on.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely, I've got to get those 2 bent WS6 wheels fixed. I don't think that would be very great. And I'll get those taken care of and then get out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the place that we had the events near me is now they don't allow them to do them there anymore. So all the SCCA events, I'm going to have to travel, Salem, Virginia, they do them down there. But then, like I said, I know there's some in Richmond and out towards the beach. So I've thought about doing that as well. Like I said, go and Richmond's only an hour and a half, but still I could go stay the night before. That way I'm there early. It's not like I'm driving, a whole bunch in the morning and then trying to get my shit together when I'm there at a race. So
these guys, they were 20 minutes from me where they were running, and they couldn't run there for a while. Then they got the place back to do it. Then they lost it again. I lost it. I don't think they did anything. It was just, it didn't pan out. They were like, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. So now they're probably 40, 45 minutes away.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, it's still not bad.
No. So where we were doing it was literally in my town, right behind where my new job is, where I walk every day. is where we would autocross.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
But they're not doing it. They're building a new courthouse back there. And so now they're like, yeah.
The quarter-mile drag strip that I go to has put in a pad, and they do like, like a Friday night drift kind of thing. You can go out and slide cars around, or maybe they do it on Sundays. I forget. But, I keep thinking if they can expand that a little bit and get enough room there, I mean, they could turn it into a park and have drift, have autocross, which would be great. And I know it's a big investment. And when you have less and less people turning out to race, that's tough to do. But the Central Georgia car scene guys have started up around here, man, and they're really promoting events and putting on the little drag and drive race was something they kind of collaborated on. The Cars and Coffee, something that they put together, and they've really been and you're bringing guys with all different kinds of cars. You got muscle cars out there, you've got Lamborghinis, you've got, and that's cool to see because the whole car scene over the last few years has become like show your car off online, make it really nice in the garage and take pictures of it and go cruise by yourself. And there's just not a lot of community events anymore. And I'm glad to see that kind of coming back, because there was one at a big shopping mall that used to happen once a month, like First Friday or something, every single month. And it used to have a really big turnout, and then it kind of dwindled over the years. The old Georgia F-Body Association or either, I'm pretty sure it was Georgia F-Body Association guys. We would meet there, and there was a Mexican restaurant. We'd hang out. And I was this 18-year-old kid with a bunch of 40, 50-year-old guys that, all had third gens and used to meet and hang out with them. And
now we're those guys.
Yeah, right. And I look back to that, and I'm like, because I was even at the Cars and Coffee, man, and there was like some folks that it was like, I would watch them, and I'm just thinking, that was me 15 years ago, just 16, 17 years old.
But then, like, you think about those older guys now, they're like, yeah, those are probably the guys that have the Corvettes and, like, the fifth gens with, like, the Transformer shit all over them now.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Although I'm still, there will be no time when I'm not slightly jealous of the Corvette guys, no matter how old they are, no matter how light their New Balances are.
I agree.
I want to drive one. Yeah. I did have a guy, he's got a C6, and it's rowdy. Yeah. And we were talking about it, and I went out to the drag strip and took pictures of a race. He was there. Something had happened. He thought he'd hurt the car worse than he did. I think it was ended up just being a plug wire or something. Yeah, but they were like, we're not going to chance it tonight because it was already cold. But I was like, man, next time you race, let me know. I'll come take pictures, And he was telling me about the car, and I was like, yeah. I said, I'm going to get one day. I want to drive it. And he goes, we'll do something about that. It was like, basically come out and drive mine, and check it out. So there's a lot of really good people, man. And I have folks even around here. I don't know if you deal with this, but I know I do. That like people say, yeah, come hang out. Let's wrench on stuff. But I end up just like, I'm not just going to go drop in at somebody's house. And the sad part, like I would be perfectly fine if somebody did that with me. They can come hang out in the garage. We'll do whatever. We'll drink garage beers and blast Creed. But
at the same time, I know that like it's going to happen on the most inopportune night where I'm just not feeling it, or like we have shit going on, and then I'm gonna be in trouble.
Yeah, right.
So,
and that's the thing is like the invitations are there, and then I'm like, damn, there's nobody that wants to hang out and wrench on cars, but they're like, I thought you'd come over, but you just never know. Like you don't want to, like you said, I don't want to be the guy that drops in on the night that, you and your wife are fussing with each other, or, your kid's sick, or, any number of things that could be like, yeah, tonight's not a night that I'm just going to chill in the garage.
Right. And for me, honestly, I really like, if I have somebody that's there with me that's actually helping, or can like, if they're just there and talking, but they can kind of like be a helpful handing me shit every now and then, but
they know what a 10 millimeter is and know how to find it.
But helping me keep motivated. But because I've been many times where I get with somebody and we just hang out and really don't get shit done. And honestly, that's why a lot of times I like working by myself. And that too, and sometimes I've sat out there in like middle of the night, radio off, just complete silence, just out there just working on shit. And it's like putting my adult Legos together, my own little therapy, just kind of chilling.
Yep.
So it's nice sometimes. But then, sometimes I do get to a point I'll be tired or whatever, and I'm like, all right, I'm just like, I fell asleep in the garage the other week. Did I tell you about that? Yeah.
No.
I was out there working and it was late, and I was getting cold and I was getting frustrated. And I'm just going to go in my little office and I'm going to sit in my chair in the heat for a little bit and just, warm up. And then all of a sudden, Holly was out there grabbing my foot, waking me up. She goes, "It's 4:00 in the morning. What are you doing?" I'm like, "What?" And I had brought this big bundle of peat moss in there, and I had it set up and I had my feet on, and it was like I was kicked back, just laid out in the chair, just out cold sleeping.
Dang.
So, and then I went in the house, cleaned myself up really good. Just went ahead and got in the bed, and I got up, went right back at it first thing in the morning.
Yep. Yeah, I don't do that often. The other night, man, I could not sleep. And I knew I had to, put the dash and all back together on the Firebird. And I was like, I laid there, stared at the ceiling for a little bit. It was like 1:00, but I was like, oh, well.
Yeah.
Got up, I eased out. I didn't want to wake my wife up. I just kind of eased out there. And like you said, no music, no nothing. I just started putting screws and bolts back in. I think I probably worked for 30, 40 minutes. And I was like, okay, now I kind of feel like maybe if I lay down, I'll go to sleep.
Yeah.
And that's, you made a post on Facebook earlier. That's not like me. I'm normally like the minute we get done with this, I'll hit upload so this thing can, export tomorrow so we can release the episode. And my head will hit the pillow. I'll turn the TV on and maybe 15 minutes. I'm out.
Well, I will say that with the job change, because I was, doing a lot more mechanical work before, and I'm not now. And I'm getting to a point where I'm actually doing more work and I'm learning more. So I don't know if it's the weather's been changed, but like the last month or two, I've actually felt pretty good. And I get out there, start working on stuff, and I'm like, it's all right. So I'm hoping that I can kind of keep this momentum when I get back. And like I said, I want to throw a battery in the Trans Am, kind of like what you were saying, the whole Freiburger, don't get it right, get it running. There's some things I do need to do to it, but I'm like, I really want to just drive it a little bit, and maybe since I have a little more time, maybe try to actively work on it and drive it. And like, I have like all the front suspension I need to redo. I've got all the parts for it, like in boxes. So like all the front steering, I've got a torque arm to put on it. So I'm like
a tubular torque arm?
Yeah. So I got a tubular torque arm, but I've got to weld in a cross member for it. And I've got to rebuild my Y pipe to go around it. So I'm really debating on putting it in and then changing my exhaust completely. But then that's a whole nother.
Then and it starts to snowball from there. And now you're not going to drive the car. So
that's why I'm thinking right now. I just want to throw a battery in it, and I know I want to get in the garage to try to clean some shit out. So I'm like, instead of starting another project, I'll just get in there and get rid of all the shit that I want to get out of my way, and then get rid of this camper or whatever I'm gonna fucking do with it, because I'm just tired of it in my way. And then maybe try again this coming winter to start tearing the car apart. So instead of making, like I said, another giant mess while it's nice out, and I can just drive it.
Yeah, that'll be good. My plan is definitely to drive mine more this year. I mean, obviously, got to get the OBS going so I can drive it some too. But I really, I just want to get it out and enjoy it some, because I did not do that last year. Like if I wasn't going to the track, I was hardly in it.
Yeah,
and it's not like I went to the track a lot. So, whereas like John, the guy with the little blue Toyota truck with the the turbo LS in it, I mean, he drives that thing everywhere.
Yeah.
You see it run all over town.
I may try to get the car over to David's house at some point and put it up on the lift. I've never had that car on a lift like that. I've put it on and been under it since I was like 20 years ago. Yeah. So everything I've ever done to it's been on the ground basically, or jack stand. So it's got some weird issues going on with the rear suspension. Like it's unloading funny. So I'm like, maybe I just get it over there, put it on the lift, really looking underneath the car at all the bullshit that I did to it years ago, and try to see like, all right, what do I need to do? What do I need to do so it doesn't kill me every time I try to drive it?
Yeah.
So,
I've never had the pleasure of working on a car that was on a lift. And so I'm scared to get spoiled by it, because then I'm going to go spend a lot of money trying to make it happen. But I mean, it's not like my garage has got ceilings high enough.
And like mine doesn't. But like I said, David, he's right up the street from me. He's like, hey, if you need it, if I'm not using it, come use it. So, like we plan with each other. It's that way. I'm like, hey, you have any time the next couple of days, I can come by and just check something out. Because I don't want to go over and get to a big project where I've got to leave something there, and block up his lift for a few days. But like the power steering deal in the Volvo, we did it over there. So, I mean, it definitely helped. There was no way I could have done that on the fucking ground.
Yeah. And it's just, Yeah, it gets miserable. I did get a set of cribs. A guy that I know got a lift, and so he was like, "Hey, I remember you borrowed my cribs when you did the transmission of your car." He goes, "I need these things out of my way. Do you want them?" And I was like, "I've got all the lumber to build a set, but if you're giving them away, like,
Yeah.
and I offered paying for them, but so they're out in the garage. So now at least I know if I have to do something where I've got to be under the car and really need to get it up off the ground, like at least it'll be stable. And so I feel better about having those. And I thought about build a second set anyway and be able to stack them. You know what I mean? If I have to.
Yeah.
So.
Hell yeah. All right.
Well, we're at an hour, man. And speaking of getting to bed, I'm not long for this world. So
I'd get to bed, brother.
But all right, man. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up here, and then we'll see everybody in the next one.
Yeah. See ya.
Have a good one, folks.